sharing is actually of my Aunt Sarah. And it actually about 10 years ago, she was diagnosed with MS. And she was just kind of going downhill, just steadily. And she was also very overweight, probably about 150 pounds overweight. And during this time, Sarah always believed, God would heal her. He had healed her before from a heart condition, and she was just kind of always crying out for that. But she was just kind of in this hard place. And so as time elapsed, there came a point about 2.5, 3 years ago where a family member basically declared to her, because she was getting ready to have the gastric bypass surgery to lose the weight, and the believers in our big family were kind of saying, like, that's not right, like, that's not the way to do this. And meanwhile, she's struggling with the MS and preparing for, well, if I'm this big and I wind up in a wheelchair, cares are going to be difficult. So she's kind of looking at the big picture and trying to have faith and everything. It's just a giant mess. And so finally, a family member basically declared to her and said, Sarah, if you lose the weight, if you trust God, when you have that self-control and that discipline that he gives you, and you do it his way, he'll heal you of MS. And she took hold of that word, and she sat with it, and she decided not to get the gastric bypass surgery. And so for about 1.5 years, she exercised the most discipline this woman has had ever, and just began shedding the weight, bit by bit by bit. And finally, we had the Supernatural Life Conference. And that's the name of it, right? Yeah. So there's that Supernatural Life Conference. And the cool thing about this testimony is you just see God using different people and different giftings and lining it all up with her obedience and her faith until the end result. And so what wound up happening is my Aunt Sarah came, and she was, actually, I just saw her yesterday. Now she's the thinnest she's ever been. But she was really, really thin then. She had lost over 120 pounds by the time the conference came. And so she was in that place, and she was having a knee issue, and she's walking with her cane from the MS. And Steve had a word of knowledge about somebody with a hurt knee to come up and receive prayer. So Sarah came up, and she was just rejoicing. She came up and got prayer, and I know Tony was praying on her and some other people, and everybody was believing. And while she was up there, the Lord kept telling me, first comes Sarah, then comes Mary, then comes Heidi. And Mary's my mom, and Heidi's one of my other aunts, and that's their birth order. So I thought, okay, God, thank you. And then he said it again. He said, first comes Sarah, then comes Mary, then comes Heidi. And I thought, oh, that's the order they got saved. I said, thank you, God. And then he said, no, first comes Sarah, then comes Mary, then comes Heidi. And I realized that he was healing her, because my mom also has a kidney disease. My Aunt Heidi has an autoimmune disease too. I realized then that God was not only healing Sarah, but he was declaring he was going to heal my mom, he was going to heal my Aunt Heidi. And so it was really exciting. And when Sarah came down, she looked at me and she reminded me of that word that was spoken over her about when she loses the weight, God's way, that he was going to heal her. And she just said, Teresa, I'm healed. And she kept saying it. We said, we believe you, Sarah. We believe you're healed, And everybody was just rejoicing. We were super excited. And so she just went to the doctor about 2 or 3 weeks ago. She hadn't had any MS checkups or anything. She just got rid of her walker. She got rid of her cane. And she has no clinical signs of MS. So God is awesome, and he is faithful. And I would just encourage you guys, if you have words for people, even if it doesn't make sense or you're afraid to say what they need to do, give those instructions and follow up with those words of knowledge and follow up with all of that, because he uses it all, and it's a working of miracles. It's not always just, boom, you're healed. It's a working thing sometimes. And so I thank everybody who is part of that, and just thank God for his faithfulness. So.
This has been an Advanced K 555 production, advancing God's kingdom with love, grace, and power. For more information, please visit our website at www.advancedk.com.